What's going on, guys? Freak here from the channel Frost and Fist, and as you know, I play the Imperial Fists. I have been asked by many people to start putting together more airbrush tips and tricks and hacks and anything that I might know about airbrushing. A couple of things such as how to avoid splatter. What do you do when your airbrush is splattering? What do you do when it's too thin? How do you know if it's too thin? How do you know if it's too thick? The mixture, rather. Also, what do you do if your airbrush gets clogged? You know, and you don't have all those fancy, you know, pipe cleaners or whatever the heck they are. You know, and a couple other things such as, you know, how do you do your highlighting, your shading with the airbrush? Those are all good questions, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to start from the very beginning with a model, and I'm going to take that model and I'm going to do several series or videos leading up to the completion of that model, and I'll show you how I actually do my airbrushing. So if you want to follow along, that'd be great. Again, these are just my personal tips. I am not professing to be any kind of professional. It's just that this is how I do it, and I think I like how the outcome turns out. So if you like it, then by all means follow along, and hopefully you'll get some good results out of your airbrush as well. Okay, so without further ado, let's get started. Right, so has this happened to you? Right, you've got your airbrush in your hand, and you've got your paint or your primer already in your bowl, and you go to squeeze the trigger, and your airbrush is just splattering. That's not what we're looking for, and it's so aggravating. So what do? Glad you asked. So typically anytime you have an issue with splatter, like you just saw in the earlier clip, then that's a good sign that your mixture is too thick. Now here's the thing, if you are using a type of primer, see, I use a primer, I use Vallejo primer, which is this stuff right here. Now this stuff comes up pretty thick. This is not necessarily for air, this is primer in general, but you can use it for your airbrush. The only problem is this stuff can be really thick, and my airbrush really can't handle it as thick as it is. So whenever you have your solution, whatever it is, your paint or your primer is too thick, you're gonna get splatter. It's gonna look really bad. So in that case, you can actually break it down with a few drops of water. Now, the rule of thumb is you want to have your solution, your paint or your primer, whatever it is, at the consistency of milk, or sometimes they'll say like 2%, okay, not whole. You don't want it too thick, okay? So the whole purpose is to be able to give it a good even coat, you know, without it running or without it splattering. So with that being the case, I'll show you what happens after we've already added a few drops of water to thin it down. Okay, here's the same model again, and we're just going to lightly spray. You can see. Now here's another thing. Notice this. You'll notice that it's actually starting to run. That means that the mixture is too thin. So once again, we added too much water, so we're gonna add more product. Again, the whole purpose is to have an even amount of product and water to thin it down. You don't want it too thick, you don't want it too thin, okay? Because otherwise it's gonna look exactly like that. It's just gonna look runny and too thin. So, all right, let's wait a second. It's gonna dry, and we're gonna try one more time. And I think this is gonna look pretty good. There's my compressor. see it here. Come on, let me zoom. Be better. There we go. All right. One more time. And we're getting more of an even coat. I'm using Vallejo Air Gray. Not Vallejo Air, but Vallejo Gray primer. And it looks like it's going on there pretty well. It doesn't look like it's running. We don't want runny primer. No product should run. That sucker down. Sucker is not only loud but obnoxious. Let's put you down there. There we go. All right. All right. So as you can see, it's covering really well. I'm not completely satisfied with the full coverage. We'll like to let it dry off and put another coat. The one thing you do not want is put too little primer, and then when you have a little incident, such as your paint, your actual paint, your coat will chip. You don't want it to chip to the plastic. You want it to chip at least to the primer, because if you can do that, then you can repaint it and it'll stick. Okay, that's another tip, guys. You do not want to allow your model paint to chip to the plastic. If you did, then you might as well just dump it into a solution, strip the paint, start all over, okay? So once again, you want your model to be very well primed thoroughly. Okay, we'll do this again. And I'm out. Add a little more. And put a good bit of primer, and we'll add a couple of drops of water. Kind of break it down a little bit. And we'll do what's called the backflow technique. See the little bubbles? That means we're pushing air back into the gravity well, the pot itself, okay? Let's see, do a little test. And looks so far so good. And let's keep on going. There you have it. Completely primed, and you can see it's well coated. It's even coat all the way around. That's why I really like the Airbrush, because if it's done right, you can have a nice, smooth, even coat all the way around. You can see it's still wet. We're going to let this sucker dry, and stay tuned for the next portion of the series